I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is an open meeting of the Seward, Nebraska governing body. The city of Seward abides by the Nebraska Open Meetings Act in conducting business. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is displayed in the back of this meeting room facility as required. We are recording tonight's meeting. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand until recognized and then state your name and address for the clerk's record. And you are asked to limit your remarks to 5 minutes. All remarks shall be made directed to the mayor, who shall determine by whom any appropriate response shall be made. The city of Seward reserves the right to adjust the order of items on this agenda if necessary and may elect to take action on any of the items listed. And we will be moving item number 1 under the council request up to the end of the confirmations. So please call the roll.
Alterman. Present. Singleton.
Here.
Hendricks. Here. Miller.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Wilkins.
Here. All right, first item this evening is the draft minutes of June 16, 2020.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman. Present.
Sorry.
Singleton.
Yes.
Sorry, my
Yes.
brain froze.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Wilkins.
Yes.
Motion carried.
The next 2 items are the consent agenda items for this evening.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman.
Yes.
Singleton.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Wilkins.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, next we have the reappointment of Mark Seward to the Civic Center Commission for a 3-year term.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman.
Yes.
Singleton.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Wilkins.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next appointments, we have the reappointment of Dan Ellis, Ron Nemeth, and Russell Socek to the Planning Commission for a 3-year term.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman.
Yes.
Singleton.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Wilkins.
Yes.
Motion carried.
The next appointments is the reappointment of Carl Miller and Jessica Coltman to the CERT Foundation for a 1-year term.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion? No? Please call the roll.
Alderman.
Yes.
Singleton.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Wilkins.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, now we'll move up the first council request item. This is to discuss the speed limits from Highway 15 south onto 8th Street. This was a request from Councilmember Schmidt at our last meeting. Chris, did you want to intro that?
I see the residents who
Okay.
requested of me to get this on the agenda, so we'll let them speak.
Okay, just raise your hand so we can, you just stay in your seat. We're just the whole social distancing thing.
Fair enough.
But if you can state your name and your address for the clerk's record, and then you are welcome to speak.
Sure.
Jim Quist, 1226 North 8. Our concern is kind of twofold. The speed of the cars coming primarily off the highway southbound down 8th Street. It's amazing how people do not slow down. And I do appreciate, since the discussion last meeting, I see we've got the radar thing there on 8th Street. And hopefully that's helped. Coupled with that is with that new trail coming off of the Fairway Woods addition, park and bike trail. It's trees on both sides of that, so when people come off of that onto the street, cars are going super fast. There's really no time for a car to see a kid coming off that trail. So I guess
Record, 746 North Avenue. Just to build on what Jim said, obviously the speed of the traffic going to the south is probably the biggest concern. You know, it's just kind of a natural place for people to proceed at a pretty high rate of speed, I think for several reasons. They're coming off of the highway. That street, for whatever reason, rarely has cars parked on either side of it, so it feels a little bit more like a highway. So the speed going south is a definite concern. Jim mentioned the new trail that's put in. A lot of people don't even know that's there. The trees extend so far out towards the street, and it really is a concern, as big of a concern where the trailhead starts for people coming from the south going north, because that trail feeds onto 8th Street just over the top of the crest of the hill, you know, and you get people that are turning left and going north off of Hillcrest, and for the same reason, they're picking up speed in a hurry, because there's not cars parked there typically, and they're used to driving fairly fast. So I think some measure, I think the traffic warning, the radar system is probably helped here since it's been there. You know, we certainly respect that it's a pretty easy route for people in town to get to the middle school, to get to the elementary school, to get to Packet Safe, to get to the pool, fairgrounds, Hughes Brothers, all of those things. I mean, it's, if I didn't live in that neighborhood and lived somewhere else in town, I'd probably utilize the street for the same reason. I mean, we're not going to prevent traffic there, but something to curb the speed of the people coming off the highway. I think everybody in the neighborhood that I've talked to would certainly not be opposed to even blocking 8th Street off for southbound traffic coming off the highway. I don't even know if that's within the city's realm or if we have to involve the state, but anything would be appreciated.
Anyone else wish to comment on this? Yes, please state your name and.
Megan Quist, 1226 North 8th Street. I was the one that originally had sent the email to try to get just the traffic slowed. I originally had called the city and just asked if we could get a sign posted where that trailhead is, that just says children at play or bike traffic or whatever, and I was told by the city that they were gonna come and talk to you about it and that it would be in within 3 or 4 days. That was at the end of May, so that obviously hasn't happened. So if we could, at a minimum, get like a sign put up there that just, again, where the trees, where we just discussed, that would be very, very much appreciative. And then maybe just a permanent solution to try to slow that traffic down. The lack of the sidewalks with so many kids and everything else, it's a concern.
Well, sometimes there's a lot of possibilities as far as alleviating some of those concerns, whether it's adding sidewalks or signage, or even maybe, and I haven't looked over there lately, but maybe even like removing some of those trees on the end just to create a better side triangle so people coming off the trail, you know, are kind of aware. We've done that at the bottom of Hillcrest, for example, where the trail is, you know, we try to keep those side triangles back just so that someone doesn't just, if you're driving, all of a sudden someone just doesn't show up right there on the edge of the road, that you both the person using the trail and then the drivers can have a better chance of seeing each other as they approach that. So I think that's something we can definitely look at and see kind of what options that there are, and then I guess we'll go from there. Does the council have any questions or comments? Chris, do you have anything?
No, you know, it's a conversation Jim and I have had in the past, especially when the Fairway Woods development was getting planned out, and the amount of traffic that'll increase. You know, at the end of Augusta, Connor has completed his little addition back there. I think there's 4 more houses to be completed. And, you know, it's amazing, just the 10 houses, I think it's 10 that's up there, the amount of traffic that's increased past my house. And then when you throw school into play, I can tell you, everyone from Augusta, when they leave, take kids to school, they turn up 8th Street. They don't go to the highway because you can't get across the highway at Hillcrest. You sit and wait. And so everybody turns up 8th Street and goes that way. So I don't know the best solution. I mean, something I feel also needs to be done to slow the traffic. It's like Dave said, it's really easy to come off the highway and just, you don't realize you're going 40 or 30 when you come off the highway. again, does the state get involved? I mean, we have that little triangle sitting right there. Can we close the straight shot off the highway and make them come up and slow down and have to turn in at the, I call it the triangle, so on the south side of that triangle, make them turn in and slow them down coming off the highway. So, but whatever could be done. I guess another question is, so is that little radar thing, does it give you any stats, or is it strictly a radar gun to say, to notify people?
It just notifies people.
Or do you get any data off of that?
It doesn't record anything from
No. Okay.
that, my understanding of the technology.
Have we done enforcement in that area, like recently with extra enforcement or anything?
I couldn't say, that's, would have been done on day shift when we weren't working, so.
What about speed bumps?
That was my next.
You know, like I know on 33rd and whatever behind South Point Mall, there's a living quarters there and they have the kind of longer ones so that, you know, jack up the car. But if you did it so it's right past maybe the entrance to the country club and then maybe either right before or distance wise around the park entrance way, maybe that would be a solution.
John?
I agree with the site triangle. I mean, I've drove big trucks up in that during harvest, combine, tractor, disc, and that's our main route to go around and go south of town. So, you know, as far as shutting it down ever, that would be kind of a big question because we probably have a lot of farmers in here upset at us as well. So we just gotta think about the right perception that we need to do there. But the site triangle is huge because I think when you're driving tractor and duals and coming down there with a big piece of equipment, if a kid come out, you can't see him, you ain't gonna stop that big piece of equipment. That's been something that's been for years, so now with that trail, you know, we gotta really think about that, so. And Hillcrest, we did a really good job down there on the bottom, that, you got a very good site triangle down there, so we probably need to do the same thing.
One request I would have, I guess, if it's possible with that radar machine, maybe to move it farther south, because I still think people see that, it's like, I'm good, and then they go again. It's probably once you get past the last homes, or towards the last homes on the west side, is when it really seems, which is kind of right in front of my house. I mean, I did some rudimentary clocking the other day, I measured out about 50 foot of the street, and timed people, and I think the fastest one I caught was like 43, which isn't crazy, but, and again, I know that's not official, but, it's slowing them down for a little bit, but it's, I mean, 43 miles an hour, especially close to that trailhead, that's not much reaction time.
Is there a particular time of day when you see more traffic?
During the school year, before and after school, like Chris said, it's like a highway at that time of day. And it just depends. You can tell when people are late to golf league pretty easily.
The other one, I think there's a certain, I don't know exactly when Hughes Brothers shifts turn to, but, it seems like I could have something to do with it too, a little bit, I guess, coming and going.
Yeah, we can certainly move that machine.
And you'll catch, I mean, thankfully it's the norm. I mean, Jim and I talked about his rudimentary radar trap. You know, that is, I mean, that's a 45 and a 25, you know, so I mean, they're basically doubling or almost doubling what the speed limit is there. And it wouldn't take long for you to watch to catch somebody easily probably going north of 50 miles an hour. At least a couple times a month, you'll see somebody going that fast.
Hey, Jim, does that trailhead, I've walked it, but I don't remember, when you come out, does it line up with the sidewalk across the way, or it goes right into that blue house?
No, there's a sidewalk that cuts north or south of it that just goes for 30 or 40 feet. But yeah, it doesn't line up with the sidewalk. It lines up with the end of that triangle lot there with the blue house.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it shoots you out right across the
Comes
road.
up just north of that garage that comes up from that blue
Yeah.
house that comes up.
Because if it lined up, I was gonna say, can we throw a crosswalk there, but it doesn't line up with anything.
It doesn't line up, it wasn't designed for, ultimately, there will be a connection back to north when they develop the next phase. But we're gonna have to deal with the, 50-year-old plus down there that don't have sidewalk, and it's on both sides of 8th Street. It doesn't make it down to Hillcrest on either side completely. And so, that's something that in the next budget or as a policy, one or the other, either the city needs to be involved and assist homeowners in residential properties, fill these in that we've allowed to go to the wayside for decades probably, and, or say, here's the policy, whether you do quadrants, areas, whatever, and you have 1 year, and then at that point, we're billing you or taxing you or putting it against your property. And we have to come up with one or the other to solve the sidewalk problem. So, and that goes throughout the city. That's one of the things that.
And we are currently basically doing an audit as to see where those sidewalks are missing. Cause there are some, what it typically looks like is what was on the edge of town at one time, those houses didn't have sidewalks. And then as the town grew around them, there are sidewalks added to those new developments, but not those ones that were on the edge from before. And there's some up by like the elementary school and some other places where you would think you would want sidewalks if you have, you know, younger kids walking to and from school. So it's that we can make that potentially a part of a bigger project. As something, it's just not real popular when you try to tell someone they have to spend thousands of dollars on a sidewalk, and sometimes it's hard to find people to do sidewalks because they're a relatively small project. Yeah, but if you bundle it with a much larger project, you perhaps can get a little bit more headway in that direction. So.
You do notice for the time being now, as far as the sidewalk issue goes, and I guess I don't want to speak to Jim and Megan, but, you know, the west side of 8th there is from about north down to Hillcrest, or at least to the trail, is open country right now, you know, and obviously at some point that's gonna be developed, but whatever walkers and runners that you do see traversing that are generally on that west side of the street. I mean, even if we could tackle one side, but I guess I think at this point, maybe the west side would be better if we had to do it in separate parts, I guess. Sure.
Well, it's safer for kids to bike on sidewalks than it is for them to
Yes,
bike on
yeah,
streets.
and they wanna get to the trail, and you just don't see as many people on the east side of the street. They all kind of gravitate to that other side. And there is sidewalk down about, probably a half a block south of North Avenue. There's sidewalk to there.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't continue to Hillcrest.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
The problem we'll have there, and this is not.
It's on the south side of Hillcrest,
Yes.
but not on the north side.
Yes, over there by like Stan Liddy.
Yep. Yep.
And that sidewalk also needs to be fixed. The hard part with that is doing one versus the other is if you do the more heavy-handed route to get that installed, then they're easily gonna go, well, what about that person right there across the street?
Yep.
And that's gonna be the hard part. So as a policy, for you guys to decide this, you're gonna need to sort out how all the rudimentary elements of this work to get this problem solved after we turn in the audit to you and say, here's all sidewalk missing still.
What's your time frame on the audit?
We can have it done before budget's done, if you want,
That would be great.
if that's what you want. It's just a lot of walking and maps.
The original priority was like
Schools.
within a mile around the schools. So, because like, for example, is it Coulterman right there by the elementary school?
Yeah, it is.
Like there's one corner that doesn't have any sidewalk. There's that stretch that has no sidewalk on either side. The people that live there have told me that it's common to see kids walking down the middle of the street, going back and forth. And so the original priority was just children's safety around schools, but obviously the trail is another area that would attract kids that you want to be careful with as well. So we can take a look at that as well, maybe a first phase, and then kind of expand, until we get so much hate mail that we just decide to abandon it entirely. And then we pretend like we never had this discussion.
Jim spoke of the 14 kids in our neighborhood. I can say with confidence that none of them were walking to school, so.
Okay.
But I mean, if that neighborhood fills in, then.
Well, and you also assume that houses around, like elementary schools, the new families will usually have smaller kids just because it attracts families with young kids who want to be close to a school. And so that will be a perpetual issue that will really never go away.
We talked a lot about sidewalks. I think all of our biggest concerns would be the speed. Just sort of-
Yeah. And the speed's a little bit trickier because I don't know that we can really do much with the speed limit, just because all of our speed limits in town are basically 25, except less the school zone time of day. I don't know about speed bumps. We typically stay away from speed bumps just because it can create some issues with snow removal. A lot of times they get peeled off if the snowplow doesn't know where they are for sure. And so there are some complications with some of those other ideas, but we'll definitely see what we can come up with and come back to you guys. Yeah. All right.
My name.
Yeah, name and address, please.
Ryan Cook, 302 East Roberts. As far as the speed limit, one thing you can do is reduce the width of the roadway at specific spots, and it kind of serves as a choke point, which is a natural way to slow down. When I was in Montana working there, it was actually very common on subdivisions to do that. Just periodically they put it in just to slow down traffic, especially if you put one in. Actually, it worked real well at the trail to increase the width of the
You
shoulder.
bump out the trail.
So it'd be a natural diversion slope.
I don't think I have any problem with what the speed limit currently is. It's typical for residential. I just.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked briefly there about the speed limit. Obviously, snow removal is the first thing that comes to mind with being an issue. You do commonly see rubber ones anymore too. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be asphalt or a cement product.
You can just brick, you know, just brick the whole road, that's low.
Brick way down to the
I'm kidding, mostly.
Two other items that were brought up, just to address them here. The children at play sign is not in conformity with the MUTCD, which is the standard we use for all road signs. There are no
Is there like
children
a
at play
trail
signs
sign
in
though?
that. There's a trail sign, but there's no crossing there. And there's no receptacle, as Councilman Schmidt said, on the other side. So you wouldn't want to mark a crossing there because it's not a crossing.
Okay.
It wasn't designed either. Ultimately, we could do some flares, but once all the sidewalk is in, you'll want people going north-south there
Right.
because there's no reception on the other side. So we could ultimately try to put one on the other side, but then we will have to pull those trees back a ways. And then we would mark it and then put the two big white stripes across it and then put up the two signs. You know how we mark all the other trails?
Yeah.
So, or the crossings at least, the marked crossings.
Any other questions or comments from the council or the public?
Are they, I thought I had read and stop me, are they resurfacing Highway 15 through town?
Yes.
And are they gonna have a pilot car?
We
Through there.
just met with, randomly, she's getting ahead of herself. Administrator.
Moving it along.
We met, myself, Mike Oneby, and Bob Meyer, street superintendent, met with Tom Goodbarn, who is the engineer for District 1, which is our NDOT district, and met and reviewed the project that's slated. It's probably at earliest 2023, and that's to come through and widen 15, and take a look at that again, and then reconstruct from Ash, or from the railroad track, basically Ash Street, all the way to past North Heights, what's that one that goes in front of the high school?
Yeah,
South side?
Northern Heights.
Northern Heights, past that, for reconstruction. Some of that's resurface, once you get past North Avenue, I think, but heavy reconstruction down by Cedar.
Are they doing something though, real soon though, with resurfacing?
No, it's that project.
That's the one?
Yep, because they're not gonna resurface it, and then come back and rebuild it 3 years later.
But okay, but
That's
we're
the
doing,
project.
the Hillcrest is gonna be, is Hillcrest coming up on something?
Hillcrest to the west,
Yeah,
or to the
okay.
east.
To the east,
Yeah,
okay.
down closer to that.
And actually, technically, Hillcrest all the way to the east, down by the bridge. That's where we're starting. in
Those will be some
next year.
significant projects right at that intersection.
There will be, that corner though is in there because there's a discussion of putting in and slowing down traffic in general in that area potentially. Because there's no crossing to the school on the highway anywhere except Hillcrest, which if any of us have parents that drive through there in the afternoon, the bus kids that drop off at the high school then run across on that curve at Northern Heights. That's their like colloquial crossing point that they like to run. And so we brought that up in that meeting and said we'd really like at Northern Heights or North Avenue, one or the other, to have a crossing there. Because they're looking at putting in some more sidewalk and stuff like that with their project. So they're looking at that, and that'll be part of the public process to ultimately like greenlight that program. But they want to put a crossing there. And so we could discuss what we can do on 8th Street. So like the idea of like southern closing, not that we're saying that because I know John had issues with ag issues and stuff. But we can bring it up and say, we're having issues, is there any ideas you have to slow traffic down when they are coming off that? Or can we put a tapered turn lane that brings them up to the southbound Highway 15 turn, a tapered turn lane that then they have to kind of pull a hard turn and slow themselves down? I don't know, that's still gonna be hard for ag purposes. And Seward does have many, like just like Waverly Road, we have a lot of ag issues unfortunately that we have to bring equipment through.
You can't get through town, you know?
Well, there's just too many rural county roads that that don't go through, so you have to through Seward sometimes.
Any other questions or comments from the council or from the audience? If not, thank you. Thank you, Sydney, and share your concerns. Yeah, you bet. We'll jump back up into our public hearings. Our only public hearing this evening is liquor license application of Bottle Rocket Brewing LLC, doing business as Bottle Rocket Brewing. You want to?
I can take it, Bonnie. This is an application by Bottle Rocket for their facility, as you formerly used to know it, as the youth center. But this will be at 211, what's the address over there, guys?
211 South Fourth.
It is 211 South Fourth. They had to mark it out on here. This will be their bottling and distribution will come out of here. So obviously, you know these guys, they're here, they can talk about their project and get you all excited, but we didn't have anything else to add, no issues. And so we can go from there. Anything else, Bonnie?
Any questions or comments from the council? Otherwise, I'd ask for someone to introduce the resolution.
I'll introduce the resolution.
Okay. The resolution has been introduced and it designated as resolution number 2020-26. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So, you do the public hearing.
Oh, you're right. My fault. I got excited there. I don't know where you're whispering.
First meeting back.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we'll just go with it.
Practice. It is a public hearing, but if the public wish to comment on the public hearing, we're going to just sail right through this, but if you want to jeopardize it, go ahead. If it doesn't pass, this point, it's all on you.
Well, they're talking about some beer options, but,
Go ahead.
Gerald Montoul, 1210 East Ridge Drive. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody from the city. Greg has been a huge help. The chamber has been a huge help. It's been really a great partnership, not just as a business, but with everybody here. And at some point, in the next probably couple weeks or so, we probably ask if you all would like to come for a tour. The council members would like to have a tour of the new facility because it's pretty cool looking. So, there you go. Good, yeah.
Thanks, Gerald.
Everybody's welcome. Bonnie, you can come too.
Anyone else from the public wish to comment? Just Gerald, okay. I'll close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Item 1A is a resolution that was introduced by Councilwoman Hendricks. The resolution has been introduced and is designated as, I'm sorry.
We'll go for Coulterman. Yeah. I know.
Not very enough tonight.
It's okay.
It's a new place, arrangement. We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
We didn't get it.
We didn't have a second, we stopped there.
I'll second. Let's make it easy. Hendricks will second.
No, we stopped him after.
All right.
We got you.
Thank you.
We got you. You can now call roll, Bonnie.
We're good.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Alderman.
Yes.
Singleton.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yep.
Miller.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Wilkins.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 1B is application recommending Gerald Hoff as manager of Class L liquor license for Bottle Rocket Brewing LLC, doing business as Bottle Rocket Brewing.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman?
Yes.
Singleton?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Wilkins?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. Administrative items, acknowledge receipt of claim from Pat Howe, 651 North Third Street, Seward, for personal property damage and forward to the city's insurance carrier. Greg, do you want to add anything?
No, this is just a tree branch that fell off a tree during, we had numerous pretty heavy thunderstorms that rolled through this late spring. And so we had a lot of branches go down, a lot of overtime for guys to go out and pick them up off cars and all kinds of stuff. So probably an act of God, but we'll forward it on to the attorney and city insurance carrier and let it go from there.
Any questions or comments, or is there a motion? Motion is to forward on to city insurance?
Yeah.
All right, is there a
Second.
second? The motion and a second, please call the roll.
Alderman?
Yes.
Singleton?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Wilkins?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, item number 2, acceptance of Seward County E911 interlocal budget. Greg?
Yeah, we worked on last month the E911 budget with the E911 committee. I won't belabor this one. We do have the chair of the committee here, also Councilmember Coulterman, who serves on that committee, and then Director Liska is with us as well. The highlights are, I think there's approximately a 3.5% increase. A lot of good work was done by the budget committee, the subcommittee, and then also the 911 board and Barb to get that, to keep it down. The one thing I think that's of interest, probably specifically to this council, is there are significant salary and wage increases in here to spread people out. This has been an issue for the last 3 budget years with E911 and a battle with the county to not adjust those accordingly to the amount of work experience. You know, we had people working for 2 years that were making the same as a person that worked 22 years, because that's how it was set up at the time. Now they've spread those out and have a way to accommodate that, and the county is in favor of it. And so this is definitely something, at least previous councils with other budget discussions have tried to push through, but been vetoed by the county. And so that is in here. It was approved unanimously by the E911 board. And then the last thing I'll do before I turn over to Barb is note that we received news at that meeting that Barb is retiring. And so she can talk more about that, but I just want to personally thank Barb for all her work with E911 and dispatch and decades of service here in Seward and Seward County. So Barb, thank you, and I'll turn over anything else that you have on the budget.
As Greg mentioned too, that the county has started a step plan and they have started spreading out wages to make it more fair, I guess. Because like you said, somebody with 2 years or a year's experience is making the same as somebody with 20+ years. And I tried for years to get that straightened out, and it finally happened. I'm very pleased with that.
And now you can retire.
Now I can retire.
Your job is done.
The wages went up. I would like to thank each and every one of you for all the help and the assistance, and conversations and what have you. I spent 22 years with the city of Seward as a dispatcher and dispatcher office manager, I guess you would call it. And then we consolidated the 2 dispatch centers, and I've spent the last 24 years as the director. Just decided it's time to go. Other than that, unless you have some questions, the 911 board approved it, and as did the county commissioners with their meeting here last week. So,
Thank you, Barb. I do appreciate all your years of service.
thank you.
John?
Yeah, as on the budget committee, we did a lot of squeezing on monies because with the salary increases, the budget would have been a lot more. So we knew that we had our work to be was cut out for us, and we did. We
Barb did a great job. They're gonna be very lean on their budget this year, so we kept the budget down. So we met a couple, 3 times to work things out, so the budget would be more favorable to everybody versus a concern, I guess you might say.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, entertain a motion.
Move to approve the budget.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman?
Yes.
Singleton?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Wilkins?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Byron.
Item number 3 is the appointment of Seward County Attorney as City Attorney for Prosecution Services. Greg, did you want to mention anything on that?
Yep, this is just, as we've done for years and years and years in the past, we've utilized the county attorney as our city attorney for prosecution services. Handful of cases a year. Most of them are prosecutions for dog at large and just random city ordinances where there's no comparable state statute. And so those cases go up there, and so this gives Wendy and the county attorney's office the authority to do so. This is the styling and niche you want to use, and so we'll have this appointment and the resolution, and that should take care of it. It was reviewed and looked at by Kelly, and both him and myself would say, we're hard pressed, even with his services or any outside other firm, to get for the level that, or financial quality of this that we're gonna get. It's pretty cheap. There's not a lot of people around that can do this for that price, so.
Any questions or comments from council? Otherwise, item 3A, this is the city attorney appointment in agreement for prosecution of city ordinance violations of the city of Seward. That just requires a motion.
That's correct.
I'll make a motion.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman?
Yes.
Singleton?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Wilkins?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 3B is the resolution appointing county attorney and city attorney for prosecution services and establishment of associated terms and fees.
I'll introduce it.
All right. The resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2020-27. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So, second.
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Alderman?
Yes.
Singleton?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Wilkins?
Yes.
Item 3, I'm sorry, item 4. Yeah, that's what we have there. So item 4 is also a resolution ratifying all actions by the governing body of the Seward City Council during public meetings held between and including March 25th, 2020 and June 16th, 2020. Kelly, do you want to explain that?
This is just a recommendation from the league to ratify all your previous actions that you took at previous Zoom meetings. Recommend approval.
Okay. Are there any questions about that? Otherwise, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Okay. The resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2020-28. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman?
Yes.
Singleton?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Wilkins?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 5 is updates the job description for chief of police. Greg?
As you know, Alan Baldwin is retiring as well. We discussed that at previous city council meetings. And so part of preparing for listing of that job and the testing and everything else that'll be involved in it, as we normally do with almost all open positions, when a position is completely open, we have no one covered in it, currently is a good time to re-examine the job description before you list it. And so Bonnie and myself and Chief Baldwin worked through the current job description. It was last updated in 2001. So Alan was hired in 1997 as chief. And so we felt it was an appropriate time. We pulled a number of job descriptions from similar sized first-class communities all over the state. Incorporated some of our ideas, some of Alan's ideas. This is what came out. We sent the final draft off to Alan. Didn't hear anything back. AC, we also sent it to you, I believe, Craig. You got to see, do you have any questions or concerns about it? provide the AC too, because until somebody's appointed, AC will serve in running the program. So we need to understand that that's how it works until someone's put it in a new place. So to make sure that they knew what their responsibilities were as a department and overseeing that department. Nothing major here, no new major responsibilities or anything, but it's just laid out the way we like it and list all the proper associated duties.
Thanks, Greg. Any questions or comments from the council? Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve?
Yes.
Is there a second? Second. Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman?
Yes.
Singleton?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
We already did the next items. We go down to reports. We have the city administrator's report. Greg?
Yeah, I can answer any questions you have. We already kind of talked about Highway 15, but note that that's coming down the pipeline. That's a long process with public hearings, and we're going to have small group meetings with interested parties. So obviously the downtown business owners, we're going to need to discuss that retaining wall again. I don't think we're going to change the retaining wall, but the wall from Ash Street up. There's some ADA issues that are associated with that when a state project comes through that need to be looked at. So we'll want to talk to those property owners. And then obviously the widening corridor as we get past Jackson and go north. We'll want to talk to them. They're going to do a tree survey in advance of that and go look at what trees they can keep within the project and what trees would have to come out. We'll note that due to a number of telecommunications, you see us out there doing our water main project right now. With boring, a lot of these projects for utilities are gonna knock some of those trees out anyways, just because the root systems are gonna get beat up throughout that entire process. So ultimately, those right-of-way trees and those corridors won't last forever. And then we're also just generally having issues with trees. We've seen us cut a number of them down already, because they're dying out. And then we're keeping track of all the ash trees, because of emerald ash borer.
Are we replanting them when we take out trees?
Ultimately, we will. Obviously, we have the relief program, and we utilize the funds that are not utilized by the public. And we have the public properties and the street department go out there and acquire trees at the end of the season, because usually the best time to plant them is in the fall. So what we don't use in the budget, we go out right at the end of the budget year, order trees, place them around town. In these corridors, the recommendation now is not to put them back in as street trees, so between the sidewalk and the roadway anymore, because that's where all these underground utilities are going now. And so every time we have another new telecom come through, or Windstream, or Spectrum, or any other fiber provider, or if we have a water main replacement, or sanitary sewer replacement, we're ripping through these things back and forth all the time with boring machines, where we didn't do that 50 years ago. And so we're recommending putting them on the other side of the sidewalk and putting them in private street areas to still accommodate, provide shade and all those things, but it keeps it out of the right of way, and then we don't interfere with them or have to kind of work around them. So we are recommending that we continue to promote the relief program, and then we utilize it and take advantage of it, plant in other places in town or on city property if no one utilizes it. So yeah, so that keep that in your mind as Highway 15 progresses and the state gets ready to tee that one back up again. They'll want to see the public response on the project and hear from interested parties. So we'll do that. Obviously, COVID-19 related issues. I think the fun one was the sales tax issue I emailed you about. We continue to monitor that. I briefed you in the email, but I talked to Gretna today randomly. We were working on comparability, and so I was on the phone with the administrator from Gretna, and I have to ask about sales tax because of Nebraska crossing. They're a little bit more heavy, and they said they had a substantial sales tax receipt for April as well. And so we don't know all the logistics going with what's going on with the state and the Department of Revenue, because they're the ones that control that information. They just give us the check. But it's interesting to see it, and I still think it is online sales tax that, over a year ago, we weren't collecting ever, and now it's being collected across the entire United States. And so I think we're still seeing the ramifications of just how high that is in volume, probably even higher during COVID-19 and the pandemic. And so that's kind of kept sales tax up, and then motor vehicle tax is down, but we'll see after the period of allowance by the state, once you have to get those registered by June 30th. We'll see if that rolls in later, but we won't know until September after budget's already done. So we'll be very conservative on the street revenue side. I'm sure there are 1,000 other things on. Waverly Road project's going on. They're gonna try and get that filled up. They're gonna go all the way from the highway and finish up in the late fall, right by the entry to the middle school. And the reason they're gonna go that far and keep North Columbia close through the project is it's the most even. If they were to stop west of Columbia and keep Columbia open through the whole thing, where the asphalt currently goes and where the concrete is not even at all. You couldn't even taper it without having to remove a bunch of concrete or remove a bunch of asphalt and then re-pour it down. So they said it's the most even to where the concrete will end up being ultimately, so that's why they stopped there and continued on through. And we communicated with the school district, and we were out just last week looking at some bus route issues and stuff like that with our team. So Waverly Road goes on, they're plowing through East Seward Street, they're in the second phase of that, that's gonna wrap up quickly, and then they're gonna move on to the roundabout phase, and then they'll be done. So that will be quick, and then, we'll see here soon the asphalt overlay for the next portion of Columbia is gonna get started here soon, so more traffic congestion issues throughout. But, they'll get that started hopefully here soon, and that shouldn't take them too long, because the 4th of July has already gone by and stuff, and so they'll get in and get out, and then school will start at Concordia. And then the last one will be Carroll K in the fall, so probably the end of August, they'll get in and start that, if not sooner. We still got a lot of stuff ahead of us, and it will continue on, and some of these will continue into next year, like Waverly Road will go into next year, and then you'll see when you get the budget, what that we're planning for that portion of Hillcrest and some trail access and other things all the way up by Carroll K and those other items. So. Anything else I can answer questions on?
Any questions or comments for Greg? If not, I entertain a motion to accept the city administrator's report.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Coleman.
Yes.
Singleton.
Yep.
Tanner.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Welper.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Do you have any future requests for council agenda items or administrative action? Seeing none. Jonathan, what do we have upcoming events?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As you all know, we're hosting 40-plus softball teams for the USSSA tournament this upcoming weekend. We appreciate your support of that. We're planning on hosting Spend the Weekend in Seward to help welcome those teams. The drive-in movie on Friday night, as well as sidewalk sales with our local restaurants and retailers. So we encourage you to tell your neighbors and friends that an opportunity to help support our local businesses this upcoming weekend. With that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next, we have a strategy session with city attorney to provide negotiation guidance concerning real estate interests. Do you have a motion?
I do. I move that the city council go into closed session with the mayor, city administrator, CEO Jonathan James, and city attorney for protection of the public interest and discuss real estate interests and provide the city attorney with negotiating guidance for a period not to exceed
For the first one, just 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
All right, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second, please call the roll.
Coleman.
Yes.
Singleton.
Yep.
Hendrick.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Welper.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The council has voted to go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and to discuss the commercial rail campus development area real estate interest and to provide the city attorney with negotiating guidance, and no action will be taken.
Not with the rail campus on that one.
Just real estate interest.
Okay. All right, we're in closed session.
Then we should
Yeah, you guys.
turn off the camera.